Hello everyone, this is Miss Fryatt and today we're going to be looking at sequences. So we're just going to go through a few of the rules to do with sequences, and we'll start by looking at questions like this. So it says, here are the first four terms of a number sequence: 5, 8, 11, 14 and so on. A, we want to write down the next term of the number sequence. So I'm just going to pause and explain this word term. The term just means the position that the number is in. So 5 is the first term, 8 is the second term, 11 is the third term, and 14 is the fourth term. So to find the fifth term, we need to see what we're doing to get from one number to the next. Okay. So here, to get from 5 to 8, we are adding 3. We're going to check the rest to make sure it's the same. 8 to 11 we add 3, and 11 to 14 we add 3. So we're going to do the same to the next one, and 14 add 3 is 17, so that is our next term. B says explain how you found your answer to A, and that's just the rule we use. We added 3 each time. We're then told that the 100th term of this sequence is 302. So this is somewhere down here, we've got 302. We want to work out the 101st term, this one. Well, the rule hasn't changed. Each time we're going to add 3. So 302 add 3 is 305. Then we want to find out the 99th term. Well, that's the one before it. So the rule hasn't changed, but we're going the opposite direction now. We've got something and we add 3 to get to 302. So I can do 302 take away 3 to get my answer. And you can use that doing long subtraction, or you can use a calculator for now. But be aware it might be on a non-calculator paper. 302 take away 3 is 299. Okay. Just want to point out this note in the corner. So the rule for this example was adding, but a rule can be adding, taking away, multiplying, or dividing. It can be any of those. So I think this is a good place to pause the video. And I want you to have a go at these questions. There's lots on there, and for each one, describe the rule and find the next 3 terms. And then there's a bit of an extension one down here. So pause the video now and have a go. Okay, and on the next page is going to be the answers. So, I know it looks a lot, but in black are the next 3 terms, and in red is the rule. So mark your work, please, have a go at that. And then the answers down here are there as well. Okay, so next we're going to have a look at something called the nth term. Now, the rules we were just looking at meant you could go from one term to the next one. But what happens if we've got a question asking us to find the 100th term or the 1000th term? It would take a long time to get there. And this is where the nth term is something that can help us. So the nth term looks like this in our example. We want to find the first 5 terms of the sequence with nth term 5n plus 3. And I'm going to type this because I find this easier than trying to write with the pen. So to do that, we're going to use substitution. And we're going to start and we're going to substitute n for 1. Remember, when we substitute, if we've got a 5 and an n, we multiply them. So I'm going to do 5 times n. Here we've said that n is 1, so I'm going to replace it with 1. And then add 3. 5 times 1 is 1. It's 5 even. Add 3 is 8. And I'm going to do the same process. I'm now going to say n equals 2. So same rule, I'm going to do 5 times 2 this time because I've replaced n with 2, add 3, and I'm going to keep going. 5 times 3, add 3 is 18. If n equals 4, I'm going to do 5 times 4, add 3, which which is 23. And if n is 5, I'm going to do 5 times 5 by 3, which is 28. I've stopped at n equals 5 because it asks me for the first 5 terms of the sequence. So I'm going to stop there. So our sequence is 8, 13, 18, 23, and 28. Now, there is a quicker way to get this, but you still have to do the first line. So I'm going to make that in bold because you can't do either method without doing the first line. Once you've done the first line and got the 8, you can then simply add the number that's in front of the n. So once I've got the 8, I could say 8 add 5 is 13. That's my second one. Add 5 to that, I get 18. That's my third one. Add 5 to that, I get 23, which is my fourth term. Add 5 to that, I get 28, which is my fifth term. And this 5 comes from the fact. Well, let me highlight it. Okay, these 5 come from the fact that the nth term is 5n. So it's very important that it's the number in front of the letter n. Do a few more examples here and do the shorter way. So for 7n minus 2, so I still need to start by saying n equals 1. I need to figure out that first number. So I'm going to do 7 times 1. And this time I'm going to take away 2 to get 5. So I'm going to start with a 5. That's my first term. And here, the cheats way, the quick way, is to add 7 each time. So 5 add 7 is 12. Add 7 is 19. Add 7 is 26. Add 7 is 33. Okay. So we'll look at the next one with a decimal. So I'm going to do the same thing to start with. N equals 1. I'm going to do 0.5 times 1, and then I'm going to add 5. So 0.5 times 1 is 0.5. Add 5 is 5.5. I'm going to start with 5.5, and I'm going to add this. So adding 0.5 is 6. Adding 0.5 is 6.5. Adding 0.5 is 7. Adding 0.5 is 7.5. Okay, the last one I'm going to go through is where we've got a negative number in front of the n. I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to say n equals 1. I'm going to do 50 take away 2 times 1. So 50 take away 2, which is 48. So I'm starting with 48. Now, because this is a take away 2 and a minus 2n, instead of adding 2, I'm going to subtract 2 to get the next one. So I've got 48 take away 2 is 46. Take away 2 is 44. Take away 2 is 42. Take away 2 is 40. Okay. So again, I'd like you to pause the video and have a go at these questions. What's the first 5 terms for each sequence? And an extension is, can you find the 20th, 50th, and 100th terms of these sequences? I think the first one is the same, but the rest of them should be different. Okay, so I'm going to show the answers. These are the answers. Again, I know it looks like a lot of writing at the top, but just mark it best you can. And on the extension, each one, so the first number is the 20th, the middle number is the 50th, and the last number is the 100th term. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to go through is finding the nth term. I'm going to make this super big so I can write on it. So we're given a sequence, we want to find this rule. Now we always start by figuring out what it's going up in. So here it's going up in 3s. I'm going to check all of them to make sure it's the same. There are sequences where it changes, so this is why it's important to check. So we're adding 3 each time. So remember before we said once you'd found the first one, you could just add a number, and that number was what was in front of n. Well, this is the same thing, we're just thinking about it the other way around. So because I'm adding 3, I'm going to start with 3n. Now what this actually tells me is that this sequence is linked to the 3 times table. So I'm going to write that up here. But it's not exactly the 3 times table. It's different numbers. It starts at a different place. So I need to see how I get from my 3 times table to the sequence. And I do that by adding 2. To get from 3 to 5, I add 2. Let's check. 6 add 2 is 8. 9 add 2 is 11. 12 add 2 is 14. They all work. So I put add 2 on the end there. Okay. So again, I'll do a few more examples. So the first one is going down. I need to pen back. So the first one is going down. We're taking away 2 each time. So I'm going to start with minus 2n. If I put my minus 2 times table, that is my 2 times table, but everything is negative. And I need to see how to get from the times table to the sequence. It always has to be that way around. Well, to get from minus 2 up to 6, I add 8. So it's a bit tricky because we're working with negatives, but you can use a number line to help you if needs be. Now I'll check that. Minus 4 add 8 is 4. Minus 6 add 8 is 2. Minus 8 add 8 is 0. Now this is fully correct, get full marks, but we can write it the other way around as well. So I just don't want you to be thrown if you see the answer written like this. Write it the opposite way around, it's still correct. Okay, let's do another one. So here I'm going up 0.5 each time, and we still want to check, even though I'm not going to write it. 0.5, add 0.5. So I'm going to start with 0.5n. And I'm going to write my 0.5 times table above. And I need to see how I get from that times table to the sequence. Well, to get from 0.5 to 1.5, I add 1. Let's just check. 1 add 1 is 2. 1.5 add 1 is 2.5. 2 add 1 is 3. So that works. So that just goes on the end. Now the last one is a fraction one. And I want to show you that we do this exactly the same way, but what we do, we separate the top and the bottom, and we write the nth term as a fraction. So just looking at the top, I'm adding 3 each time. Okay, add 3, add 3, add 3, so I'll start 3n. Now, you might have noticed that that already is the 3 times table. So we tend to just leave that as 3n. You could put plus 0 if you wanted. You would not lose a mark for it. We just don't tend to do it though. So I'm going to put that out and leave it as 3n. Okay. Then, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Then on the bottom, the pen's gone. On the bottom, so to get from 7 to 12, we add 5. Let's just check. We add 5, we add 5, yes. So I'm going to look at my 5 times table and figure out how do we get from times table to sequence. To get from 5 to 7, I add 2. I'm just going to check. 10 add 2 is 12. 15 add 2 is 17. 20 add 2 is 22. So my nth term is 5n add 2. And we just leave it like that. Can't do anything with that fraction, we leave it like that. Okay then, again, it's time for you to have a go at some. So there's lots of questions here. So pause the video here and have a go, please. And again, I'm going to show the answers now. So these are all the answers. Please can you go through and mark it? Excellent. Right then, that was the nth term and sequences. I hope you found that useful, and I hope you managed to have a good practice. Please email me if you have any questions. Thank you very much for listening.